showing them that we can provision an environment, 0 to everything in 15 minutes.
Hey folks, I'm Stef and I'm addicted to side projects. I think I had to open that really. I'm full of a room full of people who are all in a similar spot to me. It's quite, it's like coming home or something. Like, you guys are all my people. I've been doing side projects and I was thinking about this. How long have I been doing them for? I think it's pretty much all of my career. My first side project I remember was when I was making, I was making these old Mac games back when I was like 16 or something, and I made this ridiculous game. Do you remember Tron? You know, the kind of, that racing game where you have to not bash into the other player in a grid. It's really lo-fi, and I made a version of that. I tried to play it the other day, and I hadn't programmed the timing properly, and it completed immediately as soon as I opened it. It's amazing what happens when they even ran. But the side projects have been with me since pretty early on. I got that bug of trying stuff out and exploring. And recently, a friend of mine just had a throwaway tweet. And there's a theme of Twitter being an instigator for sharing of thoughts and ideas. I think James and I, the reason we're in the room together is because of Twitter. He threw out a wonderful word. And it's this, the Ephemerald. I realize I'm a maker of ephemeralds, beautiful, glittery, tiny, shiny, wonderful little things that evaporate as soon as I've made them. I've been working in the web for a long time, and this probably will chime with you guys. How many of your websites still actually remain on the internet? I made so many of the damn things. I made Vivienne Westwood's website for years, and it's one of the websites that I'm most kind of proud of, and it's stuck around for 6 years. Can you imagine that? A website stuck around for 6 years. Nowadays, they're here and gone, and there's not really this kind of worry about the old 404 anymore. It seems to have gone away. No one worries about these things. So my talk today is about ephemeralds and what I've learned along that career of mine making them. It's a work in progress. Tim Berners-Lee famously said, "Anything you can do, I can do meta." So what, yeah, you see where I'm going with this? Right, so this is one of my side projects. The presentation you're seeing here is something that I haven't released yet, and this is the first time that it's been at a conference. It's called Emoji Deck, and I'm fully limiting myself in my presentation to the medium of emoji. That it's like a distillation of everything that's wonderful about humanity into kind of lo-fi graphics. So this is under construction. It requires an internet connection to work. It's a node server, and basically this is an array of strings that turns into a presentation for the geeks amongst you. There are many. Everyone's been talking about side projects. Aren't they wonderful, right? There's been a lot of positivity in the room. I'm super excited about side projects. I make them all the time. I have a hard drive full of these half-started Rails apps and little JavaScript things. And off a weekend, I'll just come up with an idea and then just, wonderful idea. I wonder if. And then my wife, who sadly couldn't be with us today, would just kind of see me in the corner of the room and just go, right, I'll do the hoovering then. It's like I get completely absorbed into making this really important thing, and I love doing it, and the results are sometimes quite exciting, and I'll go into some of that. But I'm also going to talk about the kind of tears of joy, the wonderful joy you get, but then also this kind of terrible feeling that you might have created something that is a problem rather than a solution. So because I've made hundreds of these side projects, I won't really talk about any one in particular. I don't think that's really what I can give to you guys. This is more a view of what happens if you kind of spend a long time doing side projects and what you learn along the way. So, how many of you guys have done startups? Any of you startup people? Okay, quite a lot. How many of you are artists? Cool, this is good. This is a good mix of people. someone said to me the other day, it's like, Stef, you're like an artist who does startups as a medium. And I just kind of laughed at him. But actually, a word seemed to emerge. And I'm seeing more of these folk around who have a kind of artistic background, but also seem to be able to make commercially viable things. And often the things that they make start in the bedroom or in the workshop or at home, not necessarily as something you're working on as your main business. And I kind of think of these guys as startists. Use something that starts as a little experiment, that's something where you're investigating something, that kind of everything is interesting feeling, and you put your focus onto one particular little problem, and then you work on it. And often those things don't need to be startups or businesses. It's more like an artistic process. And nowadays we have the tools at our disposal to, if we want to, turn something that's a product of an artistic process into potentially a business. And that's what I love about it. And we've touched about this recently. I love about technology is the ability to go really fast. I saw a crazy stat the other day. Like WhatsApp, when they sold for those ridiculous billions, anyone know how many people they had in the team? Yeah, ridiculous. They had 30-odd people on a team, and they've made a business that was worth billions. And this trend, actually, if you start drawing it on a line, it gets pretty wild. And you've got people like big investors talking about the potential of a ridiculously small team to make billion-dollar kind of size startups. Will we see a one-person founder startup turn into a billion-dollar company? Well, maybe, because we've been focusing our efforts on making all these frameworks that help us go fast, that could happen. And it's that ability nowadays just to pull something from the GitHub, get something out the door, get loads of users and get some feedback that I find really exciting right now. And I keep talking about side projects, and I keep getting excited about it because I think side projects might be the place where we see a new wave of innovation coming, new companies being formed that aren't tied to having loads of staff in a room working on a thing. And it's because of the speed. So the last few years I've been focusing on really looking at how I approach projects and how I work myself, looking at what's a barrier to me going fast, looking at what helps me go fast, and kind of cutting out the stuff that slows me down, and being quite selfish about it, and just focusing on the kind of methodology. How can you take an idea to something that's useful and skip a bunch of steps or cut stuff out along the way? And necessarily, the aesthetic of the things that I make are really stripped down and basic, because that's one of the ways that you can go fast. But also working on the top of others. The open source community is putting out stuff now that enables me to pick something up, create a little prototype in an afternoon, and get some feedback from users in a way that I haven't seen before. Rails has been around for a while, but there's some stuff coming now that I find really exciting. So focusing on getting fast, it seems to be a theme. And the tools that we have at our disposal, much like we've just seen in the previous presentation, people are working on components that enable us to work better. And it seems to have reached a tipping point with the way that GitHub and similar communities are forming, that we are able now just to kind of really componentize the process. And there's a lot of people who've been doing this stuff for a while. I mean, you can kind of borrow on their learnings and just plug things together. I really like it that the startup that Emily and I, my wife and I, are doing together, we've just done that on Squarespace and MailChimp and random, easy-to-use stuff, and we've managed to build a side project business, and we're currently, this month, we've sold £8,000 in our side project. And when you're earning £8,000 in a side project, that's wild. I don't know, I wasn't expecting that to happen. And that's just with some Squarespace. Like it's a 20 quid a month website builder. I find that quite revolutionary, and the message I keep telling to people who are not technical is this stuff is really easy now. And I like the idea that anyone can pick this stuff up and kind of make something viable in their home time. I think that's a big social movement potential there. So ideas come in the shower. That might be a bit too much information for you. I think about something in the shower. I've got a problem, or I concentrate on something that I'm doing myself, and I think, well, how can I solve that? And then I time box. The wonderful and terrible thing about side projects is you're completely resource constrained on time. There's only so much time in the world. If you're trying to do something in your spare time, your time boxes are like between when you get home from work and having your dinner, and maybe a bit afterwards, but your energy levels are reduced. And maybe if you're lucky enough to be privileged to have some spare time at the weekends, you can fit something in. And so those time boxes become really interesting. You can say, what can I achieve in an hour and a half? And you can ship a feature in that time. So I try to make these tiny, really easy, simple things just in a couple of hours. I'd advise you to just experiment with it. Not on your current side project, just try and do something else in a couple of hours, because it helps you inform how you're working on your main side project. Listen to that. Goodness me, I actually said that out loud. So I like these sweet little quick throwaway things, and sometimes I do them just for the flexing. There's in karate, there's the daily kata that you go through, the little rhythms you go through to practice the art. If you give yourself a little bit of time every week, not to work in your side project, but work on the process of side projecting, and that's like just doing a little experiment, like make another login system. You get good at just shortcutting and seeing these patterns. And I love that idea you can get better at the craft just by regularly trying to be quick. The tiny little things are what I like, because sometimes from tiny things you can spawn a big thing. I'll go into that in a bit of a moment. And the best thing about side projects is you don't have to watch TV anymore. I think the TV in my house is just unused, except for the children playing games on it. I actually feel like a sense of relief that I don't have to sit in front of that thing anymore. So side projects, when I'm making them and I've had an idea in the shower and I've made something quick, it's usually about, at the beginning, just starting a conversation with people and trying to see what people say about the thing that I've made. Maybe to get some praise, maybe to get that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling, like, oh gosh, everyone loves my little hack that I've made at this hack day I've been to. But more importantly, it's to give you yourself the feeling that, yes, actually I should bother going with that. Like, if you don't get anyone around you saying, awesome idea, you should follow that, I personally find it really hard to follow through. And often an idea will just remain on my laptop or on a sketch somewhere. So that's all the happy side. Should we go into the depths? Look at the dark side of side projects. I'm sure we've covered some of this in some of the talks, but I thought it's worth thinking about this because I don't want to be an evangelist for something that's not sustainable. Side projects in the context of an organization, and I've worked in several, they can be really challenging. So if you're trying to do a side project inside your day job, inside your day environment, getting the permission to be able to do that can be really difficult. And actually, that can be a massive distraction from what your main purpose is. I think we've seen that today. I'm not sure if you saw last night, but Pars.com has been axed from Facebook. You know, loads of us are doing stuff on top of Pars and thinking that's brilliant. But basically, Pars was a side project inside Facebook. It's something that was not core to the main purpose of the organization, and so it gets canned. And that can happen to you if you try and fit something inside a larger constraint. I call that infrastructure. I like all these little words. So you can also find that if you're trying to build a side project and you're in the flow of making it, you can sometimes get stuck based on your own stack. You've made decisions just because you're going fast, and they're necessarily quite bad because you're trying to get something shipped. And you can end up with this kind of teetering pile of tech or design or relationships or contracts, whatever it is, that can really stop you progressing. And that can be a real downer. The worst thing is bugs and bombs. I've had my fair share of these. And you've released something to the world and got some users, and that something terrible has happened, but you're at your day job, and you can't help, and you're getting panicked emails from people. It's pretty stressful. And then you get a terrible, really rough email from someone, like a dragon appears, really, really makes you feel awful about the thing you've made not working properly. And you can kind of come away feeling like you've had a bit of a haircut. I'm trying to use all the emoji here. So I've developed a fear of my own email, I think, as a result of side projects. It can be quite overwhelming if you do release something and you do get several 100,000 people playing with it and you don't have a revenue model in it. responding to that stuff is a real risk, and I see that as being a real stressor in my life, as dealing with the kind of the unintended consequences. So the horror of the side project. You can end up feeling a little bit like you're on a support line to people, and that can be pretty important. Does anybody want to be in technical support in the room? Are any of you? I just don't want to do that in my spare time. It's just not something I want to spend my time on. So you end up in kind of maintenance mode if you're not careful. And the point of the side project is to explore and have fun, and suddenly you're doing maintenance. And if you're that inclined, that can be cool, but for me as an inventor, that is the real downside. So I end up playing whack-a-mole, knocking these things on the head, problems, bugs. And for me, there's a bell curve where if I don't have much stress, if I don't have much to do, I won't get anything done. And if I have too much to do, I won't get anything done. And somewhere in between, just enough stress, just enough deadline, I'll be able to be productive. And the problem with a side project on top of your day job, it can pull you to the too much to be done, not enough time, can't get anything done loop. And I certainly found myself dropping into quite a depression of occasions. It's like, oh, it's overwhelming, I can't deal with it. So I pull back. And if you're lucky enough to be able to fund your side project, then awesome. But I don't know about you, but I have all these Heroku instances running, and they're all costing me money, and I have this feeling in my bank account now, like, I love that side project, but I think it's just costing me like a lot of money. And I know that people tell me they love it, but is them telling me that they love it enough for me to be spending $200 a month on some hosting for it? I don't know. You've got to work that out. And plus, all the accounting. Whatever you do, don't start a company around your side project until you absolutely have to. The amount of hassle and pain it causes you dealing with too many companies and too many relationships can really drag you down. You end up on the fax machine and talking to the accountants, and that's not fun. So you can end up burning the candle at both ends. And you can feel like there's just alarm bells going off all the time that are distracting you when you're in your day job. 2 bells. So then there comes a moment, do you kill your side project? Do you just stop this thing? Is it what you look at it and go, is this something that's benefiting me? Is it making my life better? Am I happy? Or is it something that's causing me stress? And actually, I've done this so many times now. I've just actively just stopped working on something and just let the domain just fail or let the server go down and then just don't put it back up and see what happens. And it's such a feeling of relief. And I'd love it if side projects sometimes had a sell-by date. It's like, I'm going to do this until this date, and then it's over. And I wonder if maybe we could do something like that, because I started a record label as one of my side projects. And the brilliant thing about record labels is you put out the record, and it's done. You don't have to keep the record like web server up. You ship it. It's done. And I think if you start thinking about maybe side projects that have a kind of doneness to them, it might feel more positive. And I worry about the kind of tech, open source type side projects just being this constant, death march. Sorry, guys, I'm getting a bit downer. I'll finish on the downside soon. But the real thing for me, and thing that I haven't really resolved yet, is I do this all the time. I do these side projects, I release them, I support them for a while, and then sometimes I don't, and I stop on them. And to me, I worry that people look at me as being flaky or as someone who just does something for a while and then gives up, doesn't have any staying power. And the danger of a side project is you can be promising to people something that you can't fulfill. I get around that by trying to talk about the process and being open about it. But there is a certain point where you're like, that's that guy. He won't stick to it. Why should I sign up to his latest one? Something I think about in the whole side project movement. It's a movement. So, okay, that's the downside. But then what happens when it goes right? So I had one where I made a little editor for a video that let you just put text on the bottom of a timeline about what was happening, and then you could search for it. So you could find a particular moment in a video about what was on the screen. Within about 9 months, we'd raised a few £100,000 backing, and then the next 2 years, we'd raised like $10 million or something. Don't know what it was in the end. And we built a startup with like 45 people off the back of this tiny little prototype made in a co-working space. So sometimes these things really work, and then you have to kill all your other side projects and focus on the one that's working, if that's what you want to do, if you want to go the startup path. And I think a lot of people will pull you this way. They'll say, oh, it's really working. When are you going to give up the day job? And the awesome answer is like, I'm not. I'm just going to keep it as a side project because I love it, and I'm just going to keep it there. And they'll say, oh, you're a lifestyle business then, are you? Lifestyle, I don't know, lifestyle business sounds pretty sustainable to me. And 99% of businesses aren't VC-backable businesses. You don't have to go for this crazy startup path. You can just build something that's cool and fun. And if you want to go that path, and I've done it, but it comes with different constraints and different possibilities. So whenever anyone says to me, when are you going to give it a day job for that startup, I think, oh, that old chestnut. Had to. So coming to the end of all this, a real realization over the last couple of years is about family. And when in the past I had all these little side project ideas going on that I was making, and they were misaligned with my home environment, it caused stress and it caused difficulty. And what we've done over the last couple of years, Emily and I and our children, I have 4 children, so you can do all this stuff even if you have a big family, is to line up what you're doing in your side projects with what matters to you in your life. And so Emily and I collaborate on things, and I collaborate on things with my little ones. I do little things with Minecraft. I've got some cool ideas with Minecraft that might be side projects. Emily, there we go, can't be with us. She loves photography, and so what we've done is combine our interests. I do the tech, Emily does the photography, and we've now made a little business called Makelight that inspires people about how to take better photographs. It's pretty simple. It's like an online e-courses and a kind of supportive community. And it's a beautiful thing because it lines up our life. It fits into life. It's a side project where the photos are like photos of our children and things in the local area or beautiful objects we want to have in the home. And so sometimes I think what's great is when people line up what they love and what fits in with their life and their home. I love the homebrew stuff because that's exactly it. You've got something you love. It's in your home. It lines up and everyone's involved. And so when you're thinking about your side projects, maybe just concentrate a little bit on what you love. Not everyone is able to work on what they love. It's a real privilege. So the joy, it's a great thing about side projects. It's all about the joy. And part of it for me is performance. Sometimes doing a side project is just to show the world something and to inspire others, and then you can stop. Some of the best performance is a couple of minutes long. Don't have to be there forever. You're not going to watch a dance forever. It's just for a couple of minutes. And becoming comfortable with killing things when the time has come. So don't feel like you're signing up to something for the rest of your life, and be public about the idea that you might bring it to an end early in the process so people feel that there's not a broken promise. Be learning along the way. I've learned a ton, and if I'm not learning, then I stop doing. And for me, the side projects are generally a way for me to explore the future, to think about what next, what's coming, and sometimes I don't see the light of day. So that's me. That's Ephemerald. I hope you've got a new word that you can send out a tweet about and say, there's this guy called Stef. He's got this invented word. It was actually by a guy called Good Machine. He was the friend who tweeted me. So thank you for the word. And that's me, Stef. And Emoji Deck is this little app if you want to try it. Thanks.